Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to a top 10 list of games with pre-painted miniatures. Some people love to paint, and that's a fantastic hobby. I am not one of those, and I prefer my games to come painted. When you have this big blob of gray or tan across the board, sometimes it's hard to see what's what, so I appreciate games that go to the effort to pre-paint stuff. Now, I'm doing my list based on how much I like the game, not necessarily how good the paint job is. I know that sometimes there actually isn't paint on miniatures, that some of them are just different colored plastics put together. Crossmaster's an example of that. And sometimes there might be 10 lucky copies on Kickstarter have a professionally painted thing, or sometimes you have to buy them separately. Shadows over Camelot, for example, does not come with pre-painted miniatures, but you could buy a set of painted knights for it. A long time ago you could buy that set, which was a special add-on. Anyhow, these are just 10 games. If there's ones I missed, you can mention in the comments below. Number 10 is Nemesis. Now, Nemesis is interesting because it's not technically painted, I guess. They call it Sundrop. Nemesis, that game which is essentially Aliens, the board game, in which you're all on a ship trying not to get eaten by aliens and to get that ship to go to where you want it to go, except you're not all necessarily on the same page. Now, there's a couple editions. They did one that's Sundropped, which is just a painting technique, and it's amazing. They've used this Sundrop technique on Tainted Grail, and it looked good there too, but in Nemesis, the aliens really came to life, and I was really impressed with this, and it's a lot of fun to play. Number 9 is Assault of the Giants. WizKids did something new with Assault of the Giants. They made 2 versions of the game, one that was pre-painted, and one that wasn't, and we're astounded when the pre-painted one, which was more expensive, sold more than the non-painted one. That's because people like me. In this game, you are a race of giants, and they include a few humans in the game just to show you, and you're going around and fighting other giants, and everyone has one big giant who's kind of their leader walking around the board. It's really fun to see these miniatures and have these giant, the hill giants and the frost giants, and I like it. WizKids has done this with many of their games, but this is one of my favorites. Number 8 is Battle Ball. Way back in the day, Hasbro made a game which was about football in the future, and you could also tackle each other. And it came with polyhedral dice for each of the players. It was a lot of fun. I just picked up a copy of it for the Dice Tower Library, and all the different models just looked cool, futuristic, painted. I thought it was fun. Battle Ball. Number 7 is Wings of Glory. Now, there's multiple versions of Wings of Glory. Just lump them all together, whether it's the World War I game or World War II. But this game from Ares, which has airplanes going around, they sell tons of painted planes for this that you can have. And these 3-dimensional planes, the original game was just cards, but then they added the 3-dimensional planes to it. And I really like them. They add a lot of flavor, and they were very easy to get as opposed to like those Shadows over Camelot miniatures I mentioned. And a lot of people have them, and it makes the game very fun. That's Wings of Glory. Number 6 is Gekigo. This is a robot game. There's a kind of robot versus robot fighting, and the thing that drew me to this when I first saw it was the brightly colored miniatures for it. All these different robots who fight each other. This game has really disappeared off the radar. But if you like King of Tokyo or games like that, this Gekigo game I think would be a lot of fun, as you basically throw some robots in an arena and they all fight each other. Number 5 is Mage Knight, which Mage Knight, the collectible miniature game, that gets an honorable mention. There's a lot, but also the board game itself. And yes, there's lots and lots of tokens in the game, but your heroes themselves are painted. And again, WizKids could be on this list for many, many things. And I'm not, again, here to talk about the quality of the paint jobs, because these aren't all great. But you know what? Any quality paint job works for me. And Mage Knight is an excellent game. Many people enjoy playing it solo, but it is a very strategic game about going through kind of an adventure and building up, deck building. There's a lot involved with it. Number 4 is X-Wing. This game would not have sold nearly as well if the ships hadn't come painted. And yes, X-Wing is technically a miniatures game. Very few miniatures games come pre-painted like X-Wing did. Everything's painted for this game, and it's done well. And I know people paint them over and make them look better, but I was always happy with seeing the X-Wings and the Millennium Falcon and the TIE Fighters and the TIE Advance and the TIE Bombers and the Y-Wings and the A-Wings and the B-Wings and so many ships. It's just a lot of fun, and the way it looked was a big part of X-Wing. Number 3 is Zaya. I don't know if every copy of Zaya's ship's painted, but mine does, and everyone I've seen has them painted. Just little spaceships that you're flying around, and it's a big part of the game, these little plastic ships. This sandbox game where you can be a attack ship, a rogue ship, a thief, a merchant ship, do whatever you want in this game. And these ships are the focal part of this game, and they look good, which helps a lot. Number 2, mechs versus minions. Now, the minions themselves are mostly just washed. They look fine, but the mechs and the big bad guy that you fight are all wonderfully painted and really add a lot of flavor and fun to the game. Mechs versus minions will show up on a lot of lists just because there's so much awesome production in this game, but the painted miniatures certainly helped a lot. And number 1 is Heroescape. I mean, come on, I'm going to put Heroescape on his list. Now, again, I didn't number it necessarily by how well they're painted. Some of the Heroescape paint jobs aren't that fantastic, but they were good enough for me, and I love this game. If you can find this game, which came out in the early 2000s, in which you had militia from the Revolutionary War, fighting against World War II veterans, fighting against Viking warriors, fighting against slaves from the Colosseum, fighting against D&D, fighting against Spider-Man. And you could do so much in this game. It was a lot of fun. Still one of my favorites to play. I'm sure there are many games that I didn't mention that you'd love to talk about. Mention those in the comments below, but those are my 10 games with pre-painted miniatures. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see y'all later.